my Kenvians, and welcome to episode 28 of Discovering Steven Universe. I know, another one this week? Who would have thought? Well, I've been kind of behind lately, and so I figured it's probably in my best interest to try and get some more material out to you all. So, let's get, of course, if you're watching this way in the future, that probably won't make any sense. But anyway, the episode I'm going to be talking about today is Secret Team, and I'm just gonna say to start with, I'm not a huge fan of this episode. It definitely had some cool elements and some parts that I honestly really enjoyed. However, there's parts about it that just really bothered me, and I don't entirely know why, but maybe I'll get a better idea as I go along here. So let's get started with my favorite parts of the episode, starting with the singing fish that Steven steps on that sings, "I bait my hook with self-pity, someone tell me that I'm pretty, fishin' for compliments." I mean, you could possibly even consider that a quote of the episode, because it's easily the funniest part of this entire episode. Just that short little bit with that singing fish. Those things that were incredibly annoying and incredibly overdone everywhere when I was growing up. I think that was when I was in either middle school or high school, so a lot of you watching this probably weren't even born yet. That's depressing. But anyway, yeah, I just absolutely loved that part. It's probably, I don't know if I would say it's the true highlight of this episode for me or not, but again, it was definitely the funniest part. So moving on to my second favorite part of this episode was, well, I guess you would say more the puddles in Amethyst's area, and the fact that she has puddles that lead to Garnet's room, or I guess it's more the basement, which I guess is Garnet's room. But yeah, a puddle that leads directly there, and another to Pearl's. Now, admittedly, Pearl's is a bit deeper because Steven has to travel further through it. But I just found that interesting that previously, well, I mean, they all have separate doors to each other's rooms, unless I'm mistaken. But, like, there are just these puddles that, I mean, basically instantly takes you from Amethyst's room to that dangerous area that we were told about before, or that we experienced back when Steven got to explore it for the first time. And, yeah, I just found that really interesting. But moving on from there, my third favorite part of this episode was seeing Pearl with the rose quartz bubble. And it's not a bubble that Steven did, but it's a bubble clearly from back when Rose was still alive. And that's actually going to be something I'm going to touch on more here in a little bit in my theories. And well, I mentioned that in the previous episode as well, that there was something else I wanted to talk about. And we'll get to that. But moving on, my fourth favorite part of this episode was the shard retrieval montage. Or, well, yeah, they're shards, but they were also like limbs, mostly. Like mostly arms and hands, which was really bizarre. But, yeah, just that entire montage. And really, I mean, might as well jump forward to the track of the episode. The music playing during that montage, just all of that together was a really good segment, really enjoyable. And it was fun to see Amethyst and Pearl getting along for once. It's like not just, struggling to get along, but in that segment, they were enjoying what they were doing together. They were enjoying the fighting and working together, which isn't something that we see very often with those two in the same scene, to say the least. But finally, that brings me to my last favorite part of this episode, which was Garnet teaches them a lesson, and dear God, that was just above. Well, actually, I would say that is probably the best segment of the entire episode, is just that part where Garnet uses her apparently super stretchy arms, which I know we've seen before, not quite to this extent though, and makes it look like she's under attack, and then takes the others under attack. And I found that to be a really, really good segment, a really intense segment, to say the least. And then the final lesson is that there is no secret team. There should be no secret team because they're on the same team, the Crystal Gems. And that is, along with that joke in the very beginning, is just probably one of the absolute best parts of this episode. But that brings me to my least favorite parts. And admittedly, some people will probably think I'm being too nitpicky here, but well, let's get into my annoyances. The first of which, and this is definitely the most minor, but the animation in this episode seems really inconsistent. Like, there are some scenes where it looks really good. Not top of the line, not the absolute best it's ever looked, but really good. You know, high quality Steven Universe animation. And then there will be other scenes, like sometimes immediately after one, where the animation was good, where we seem to take a sudden decline in quality, and it bounces back and forth. Again, it's like, it's very inconsistent. And that was just really strange to me. And let me know if any of you disagree. Maybe you think it was just kind of weak overall, or maybe you think it was relatively strong. And maybe some of what I consider the bad animation was possibly intentional. I don't know. But for me, it's just, the animation just felt truly inconsistent, to the point where I would notice it and it would annoy me while I'm watching, which takes me out of the episode. But that brings us to my final annoyance with this episode. And again, I know it's super nitpicky, but Steven's obsession with Secret Team. And the reason it annoys me so much is that it feels like they had the core idea of what they wanted to do. They had the core idea of, they were wanting to show Pearl with the rose quartz bubble. They wanted to show Amethyst and Pearl getting along and then immediately not wanting nothing to do with each other, and then the lesson that came out of all that. So the whole Secret Team thing just felt really weak to me. It felt forced, and albeit the music when Steven is walking down the street in his like gangster clothes or whatever it is, I did enjoy that little bit of NES or 8-bit style music. I really enjoyed that. But everything else having to do with that just kind of it at certain points it did take me out of the episode, but at the same time it just felt completely contrived and unnecessary. I feel like they could have come up with something better to wrap up everything that they did in this episode. And the whole focus on Secret Team was just really annoying. Like, the only time where it really felt approaching a good idea was when Garnet suggests they make their own super secret team. And I don't know what it is about that scene, but it just felt more real. It felt better to me. Whereas the rest of it just felt contrived and unnecessary. And I mean, even Amethyst and Pearl, the way they were acting, I don't know if that's just the creators and the writers being meta or what, but it was just really annoying to me. Again, call me super nitpicky, I'll understand, but it was just something that really bothered me about this episode, along with the inconsistent animation that, while the main points they hit on, like some of my favorite parts, they were really good and some really cool moments. But overall, just the bad stuff felt like it just dragged this episode down in the end, unfortunately. Yeah. But as I mentioned before, track of the episode, the montage music, and why not? Let's throw in the 8-bit sounding Nintendo-esque music playing while, again, Steven was walking down the street in his gang outfit. But, oh, and that actually brings me to the quote of the episode without even realizing it. But after Steven talks to the Fry Guy, just the simple line from Fry Guy, I can't remember his name, but that kid keeps getting weirder. And it just felt very appropriate. Yeah, so I mean, I'm sure there are probably better quotes for this episode, especially Garnet's line at the end where she's talking about where they're on the same team. Like, that could have been, and for most people that probably is the true standout quote of the episode, but for me, that kid just keeps getting weirder is the best one for me, just because of how this episode had me torn over whether or not I liked it. And yeah, so there you go. Now, moving on to my question of the episode. And I guess this kind of, oh no, it doesn't really tie into the theory. But why are Pearl and Amethyst so terrified of Garnet? Now, I understand she's easily the strongest out of all of them, as she is, I'm pretty sure she is established as the leader of the Crystal Gems. I think that's been actually established in a previous episode. But I don't understand why both of them are just so horribly terrified of her. I don't know if it has to do with how Jim's rankings go, like with her being the leader, if they do anything to screw up, maybe they're worried that she'll crack them or something. I don't know, but I don't understand why they're so terrified of her, and I hope that that's explained at some point in the future, hopefully with as little pain as possible, though that probably won't happen. But that brings me to my theories of the episode, first of which, and this is probably the most obvious, but I honestly think that Pearl and Amethyst will have a true falling out at some point. There will be just this huge fight between the two of them. I don't know what will lead up to that. I mean, their little animosity towards each other goes back and forth and up and down in severity from episode to episode, but I just really feel like there's going to be a true falling out between those two at some point. Don't know when, but that, again, just a theory. My other theory is, and I'll expand on this more in the future maybe, or maybe as I learn more, but based on Pearl's reactions to when they went to Rose's garden, and just the way she reacted to all the thorns everywhere, and the way she reacts really to anything where Rose is involved, is Pearl in love, or was she in love with Rose? I don't know, in my mind, that makes the most sense out of anything, but I don't know. I don't know, so, I mean, that's a theory. That's just a simple theory that I have, is that Pearl is either obsessed with or was and is in love with Rose Quartz. So there you go. So yeah, you know my overall thoughts on this episode. I didn't really mention it before, so if you have any of your own favorites, your own annoyances, blah-de-blah, anything else, quotes, tracks of the episode, please do let me know what they are in the comments down below. And until next time, everyone, I'm PapaKenn, and I'm just gonna go ahead and end this and leave this at its ending. I'm horrible at these endings, but anyway, I will see you all next time for Island Adventure. Can't talk. Until next time, everyone, I'm PapaKenn. See you next episode. I'm just gonna leave that in because it's awkward and weird. Bye.